is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Been a long education.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common
My
sense.
homework is
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
All right, and welcome to it, my friends. It's the Steve Gruber Show, Free for All Friday. I'd like to invite you on board for the discussion. 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. Third grade theatrics is how Mitt Romney described Donald Trump in a speech yesterday in Utah, which we're going to get to here in just a second. But the first part of the debate in Detroit last night at the Fox Theater looked like a third grade recess. And I'm following this on Twitter, and I'm listening to people as they talk about it, and I'm picking up things on Facebook. And I think what makes people angry the most, I think what makes people angry the most is the state of the conversation. You know, it just seems like, you know, this name calling and this finger pointing. You know, you look down the line and John Kasich is fit to be tied. It just seems to me John Kasich is just fit to be tied with everything that's going on because he just wants to have a conversation about policy, and I think we all should, to be honest with you. It's mind-numbing what I saw last night. But then when they finally get into the discussion, there's actually something there. But it's these personal attacks that seem to get in the way of everything else. These personal attacks on small hands and little ears, and I don't care. And I think that's the sentiment from a lot of people. But let's start with earlier in the day, because there's something going on here that is not normal and should be looked at to begin with. Then we'll get to the debate. Then we'll get to Bernie Sanders in Lansing, and we'll get to Senator Cory Gardner will be here from Colorado. We've got a lot of things to get to today. Republican from Colorado will be here. He's in Michigan. But Mitt Romney took to the middle ring of the ongoing Republican circus to continue the attack and to try to degrade Donald Trump. And all on the morning of the GOP debate in Detroit, it seems odd to me that Romney, the Republican nominee for 2012, who was endorsed by Trump, by the way, 4 years ago, levels his biggest criticisms for the way Trump has been attacking others in the race while going on the full frontal attack himself. Romney has also cited Ronald Reagan in his speech, denigrating the GOP presidential frontrunner, while forgetting that the Ronald Reagan axiom, the 11th commandment, never speak ill of a fellow Republican. Romney cited Trump's vulgarities on the campaign trail and likened them to a child, saying, if we Republicans choose Donald Trump as our nominee, the prospect for a safe and prosperous future are greatly diminished. He took aim at Trump's plans for the economy and said his tax plan and his refusal to reform entitlements will sink us even deeper in debt. In fact, Romney took shots at Trump for almost everything conceivable and every conceivable angle. The question is why? Did he really think this would somehow magically propel one of the other remaining candidates to the top, Rubio, Cruz, or Kasich? You know, Romney was trying to claim the moral high ground, but he seemed to wander deep into the political swamp while decrying the foul smell. I'm not the first to conclude that Donald Trump does not have the temperament to be president, he said, and then mentioned those third-grade antics. Dishonesty is Donald Trump's hallmark, he continued, before summing it up this way. Here's what I know. Donald Trump was a phony, a fraud. His promises are worthless as a degree from Trump University. He's playing the American public for suckers. He gets a free ride to the White House, and all we get is a lousy hat. Now, about that last line, that had me very confused. He gets a free ride to the White House, and all we get is a lousy hat. Why? Well, he said clearly that Trump gets a free ride to the White House, which is, to a casual listener like myself, would sound like He believes he's going to win. He's not worried about Trump losing in the fall. He's worried about him winning in the fall. It seems to me that Romney missed the mark and may well have elevated Trump's numbers again, as people see him as the outsider fighting back against the machine for them and their families. So when Romney went out there, obviously it's part of the establishment plan to try to knock Trump off the leaderboard. I get that. But it's unsuccessful. And by the way, he's using the same lines that Marco Rubio is using almost verbatim. So it looks and sounds and smells like a coordinated attack. And you know what that does? It ingrains Trump supporters even deeper. Speaking of Marco Rubio for a moment, here's a little clip from the debate last night. He touched on the Flint water crisis and the Democrats. Here's a little bit of flavor from the Fox Theater in Detroit. Go.
No, I've talked about it, and others in our campaign have talked about it, and other candidates have talked about it as well. What happened in Flint was a terrible thing. It was a systemic breakdown at every level of government, at both the federal and partially at both the state and partially at the federal level as well. And by the way, the politicizing of it, I think, is unfair, because I don't think that someone woke up one morning and said, let's figure out how to poison the water system to hurt someone. But accountability is important. I will say I give the governor credit. He took responsibility for what happened, and he's talked about people being held accountable and the need to change this, Governor Snyder. But here's the point. This should not be a partisan issue. The way the Democrats have tried to turn this into a partisan issue, that somehow Republicans woke up in the morning and decided, oh, it's a good idea to poison some kids with lead. It's absurd. It's outrageous. It isn't true. All of us are outraged by what happened, and we should work together to solve it. And there is a proper role for the government to play at the federal level in helping local communities to respond to a catastrophe of this kind, not just to deal with the people that have been impacted by it, but to ensure that something like this never happens again.
Thank you, Senator.
And there, yeah, he's right. It is outrageous that they would turn this into some partisan issue, as if Republicans woke up, let's poison some kids today. Well, they're just black kids anyway. I mean, that's what they would have you believe. The Governor Snyder intentionally tried to poison kids because they were children of color, and therefore, let's save a few dollars. We'll poison those kids. I mean, really? Anyhow, let's see here. We've got time to, not really. I just say that we'll get this after the break, that Bernie Sanders was in town, cruising Michigan. Donald Trump today will be in Cadillac for a big rally up there. All the candidates are milling about. Kasich will be in Traverse City, I believe, on Saturday. Of course, the Democrats holding their debate in Flint on Sunday. So all of the candidates are circulating around the state of Michigan. 59 delegates for the Republicans. It's a big prize for everybody, Republicans and Democrats. It's a big prize. And so they're all here. Of course, John Kasich, as you know, staking his claim to Michigan and Ohio in the upper Midwest. He believes if he can put a stop here on Donald Trump, that he can still become the nominee in a contested convention. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. What are your thoughts? Who would you vote for today, and why? Who would you vote for today? Would it be Trump, Cruz, Rubio, or Kasich on the Republican side? Or would it be Clinton or Sanders or somebody altogether different? 888-900-9966. Stand up. Tell us why. Don't have to give me your name. Tell me why. On the Steve Gruber Show.
Delivering Michigan common sense with a big dose of truth and honesty.
All right, welcome back to it. Going through some online polling here as to who won the debate last night. What are your thoughts on that? 888-900-9966, the Michigan debate at the Fox Theater in Detroit. What an elegant building, though, eh? I mean, it's nice to show off the Fox Theater if you've never been. I mean, it is an opulent, wonderful, incredible place. And I think a lot of people at home are going, my God, that's Michigan, that's Detroit. Yeah. It didn't all slip into a sinkhole at some point, folks. We're still alive here in Michigan. Thanks for your concern. We're doing just fine. In the online polling, who won the debate? Donald Trump in first place, followed by Cruz, then Kasich. Rubio coming in last place in this poll that I'm looking at by quite a bit. Trump picking up 59%, support Cruz 23%, Kasich 12%, and then Rubio at 4%. So who would you vote for today? And why? What is on your mind about all of this? 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966, or are you just going to wash your hands of it and walk away? David is on the line today on the hotline to start things off. David, welcome to Free for All Friday.
Yeah, thank you, and appreciate your show, Steve.
Thank you.
I would go with Ted Cruz because of all of the ones that are left. He was not my initial choice, but of those that are left, he's the most consistent, has not changed his political, ethical, or moral views in the last 2 years for expedient political purposes. And I find Donald Trump basically to be the Kim Jong-un of the free market world. He's volatile. And,
he's volatile, all right.
Left. Well, that's my...
No, that's a cute line. I never thought about it. The Kim Jong-un of the free market world. All right, that's an interesting observation. Go on.
Just one last comment, and that is I 100% agree with your observations regarding Mitt Romney. Just your conclusion I'd be cautionary of when you say that this automatically solidifies the Trump.
No, I didn't say that. No, I didn't say it automatically solidifies. I just say it elevates him further, and I think that he's the winner. I think that Trump is the winner when you get to that point because his followers are so dogmatic. I mean, Trump's supporters, they're dug in. They're entrenched. Yeah. And so when he gets attacked, they get more. And every time he gets attacked like that, a few more people seem to drift over to his camp saying, you know what, that's BS. You know, so I don't think that Mitt Romney did the Republicans any favors. He didn't, he just elevated Trump's numbers once again. I don't think Trump's a shoo-in at this point for some mathematical reasons. He's close, though. He's close if he gets a couple more wins, David. So anyhow. Thanks for checking in. I greatly appreciate the time. This is the Steve Gruber Show. The hotline number is 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. And I know that I get comments from you guys all the time. Well, you support this guy. You support that guy. Whatever. I'm not supporting anybody. I'm an observer of all of this at this point. I think that we would be better served with anybody that was on the stage last night than a repeat of the last 8 years. I do believe that, and that would be Hillary Clinton, and I think that we serve this country no good whatsoever to have somebody like Senator Sanders win anything. I mean, let's be clear about that. Socialism, it's not a socialist country. Rubio said that last night. If you want a socialist country, go find one. In order to be a socialist country, you'd have to change the entire Constitution, which I realize the Democrats are up to. I don't want to change the Constitution. I kind of like the one we have. I'd like to go back to more of it for what we have, and that's why you have Cruz supporters and people that like Ted Cruz, because they say, well, that's why we like Cruz. He's more in line with the Constitution. Fair enough. I get why you like Ted Cruz. At some point, I'll explain to you why, I think he turns some people off. Well, I'll tell you, I think he just comes across sometimes as the smug guy in the room who's smarter than everybody else, and he may well be smarter than everybody else. But it's the way he delivers that message that becomes ineffective. He reminds me of a relative of mine who becomes, dogmatic, pounding on the table. I'm right, and if you don't see the way I'm seeing things, then, you're just not smart enough to get it. That's not the way to earn votes, all right? Telling people in the room that they need to be smarter and, and you need to follow me and being smug, I guess, that's my concern with him. But do I like what he says? I do. Just so I'm clear about that, seems to be some confusion among the listeners here about what I think about Ted Cruz. So there, I've made it pretty clear. Now, John Kasich last night, we're talking about it, says it's important to stop Donald Trump. And he predicts, does Governor Kasich, that if he can win in the home state of Ohio, which is coming up next Tuesday now on March 15th, the Ides of March primaries, that they can put a block in front of Donald Trump, and he believes, John Kasich does, that he can become the nominee as a result. Clip 3, go.
I think it is important that we stop Mr. Trump. He is not my pick for president. And, I want to have a more positive approach to the solutions of the country. I'm going to do everything that I can do, and our folks will do everything we can do to win. And as you all know, I don't make predictions, but I'm going to make a prediction. I am going to win Ohio. Plain and simple. That I have not seen a chance for Mitt Romney to, what he had to say today. I know he gets lobbed a lot of criticisms at Mr. Trump. But he also went on to say that I would vote for John Kasich for president in Ohio, which I appreciate very, very much. And Mitt's a good guy. He's very troubled about the direction of the country. So I think the notion that you can beat Trump by calling him names, I don't think you get there that way. I'm not going that way, and I'm not using that kind of rhetoric because, look, I believe that over time people will have a chance to hear things. And if I win Ohio, he's not going to be the nominee. I mean, we're going to go to the convention. I'm going to be the nominee.
And there you see the strategy for John Kasich now. If I win Ohio, I win the whole thing. At which point, a couple of you guys owe me lunch, by the way, if that comes to pass. Not snarky remarks, not jabs, not insults. Just lunch would be appropriate. A cup of coffee would be nice, too. Because if Kasich comes out on top after what I said more than a year ago, then you'll owe me lunch. When we come back, we've got Senator Cory Gardner joining us, a Republican from Colorado, one of those Republicans swept into office in the 2014 elections that swept across the nation. So he's a first-term conservative Republican from the state of Colorado here, supporting Marco Rubio in the state today. Back in a moment on the Steve Gruber Show.
Michigan, born and raised with Midwestern values and Michigan common sense.
Welcome back to it. It is Free for All Friday. The phone number to call, 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. Who would you vote for today after what you saw last night in Detroit at the Fox Theater? You know, and I disagree with what Mitt Romney did yesterday in principle, but, you know, third-grade antics would explain some of what went on last night. And you wonder why people are angry, you know, disconnecting from the conversation. Because they see that. Now, were there good answers in the debate? Of course there were. There were some very good answers, but you have to kind of cut through the nonsense to get to them. Our next guest knows what it's like to be in Washington. And let me tell you something. You know, you're getting older when you're talking to a United States Senator that is 10 years younger than you are, which Cory Gardner is. Cory Gardner from the state of Colorado joining me. Senator, welcome to it.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Glad to have you here. Obviously, you're one of the guys that was swept into office in that big Republican surge in 2014 for the state of Colorado, a key state, by the way, as we look to November of this year, the election. Colorado, one of those purple states. But you're here in Michigan for the next day or two. Why are you here, Senator?
I'm here in Michigan because I believe that we've got to win this race to prevent a third term of Barack Obama in the form of Hillary Clinton, and I think the only person who can do that is Marco Rubio, and so that's why I was here last night for the debate to support and cheer for Marco and to make sure that I'm standing up in front of everybody I can, telling them why I believe Marco has the right vision, the right message for the new American century.
Now, you saw recess at the beginning of the debate last night, obviously, like the rest of us, and honestly, it does look like recess, Senator. It doesn't look like a serious discussion of foreign policy or domestic policy and so on and so forth. So I guess you can, and Marco Rubio's in there, you know, as much as Trump or Cruz as well. I think you can understand why some of the electorate are like, what are we doing here? And then John Kasich says, I'm the only adult in the room. And, well, sometimes it looks that way. What do you make of it?
Well, you know, I think there's different roles that each of the candidates has ended up assuming. John Kasich knows he has no path to the presidency, so he doesn't have to challenge the frontrunner because he can't and he's not. But you have to have room for Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, for that matter, trying to make sure that people understand what Donald Trump is not. What I believe he is not is a conservative Republican. I don't think he is. And if you listen to the answers last night, you heard Marco lay out what he would do in the war on terror. You heard him lay out what he believes needs to be done for this country's future. And unfortunately, what we heard more of from Donald Trump were simply attacks and going back on the other members on the stage. And so what this country, I believe, needs is somebody who has a firm grasp of the issues at hand, how middle-class families are struggling, what they do to grow the economy, and understands the fears and the hopes of this country. And I believe nobody does that better than Marco Rubio. I've watched him in the Senate. I was the first senator to endorse him. I've watched him come prepared to work, and I've watched him do those things that we need this nation to be doing in order to succeed.
We're on the line with Senator Cory Gardner from the state of Colorado this morning. And Senator, as you look at the pathway, you talk about the path to the White House, and John Kasich said here on the program just moments ago that his blocking strategy is to take Ohio and then go to a contested convention. That's a long shot strategy, but it's the strategy he has nonetheless. Why he's staying in. Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida, who you're supporting here in Michigan today, he has not an easy path, to say the least, because he is currently in third place with delegates, and he's going to have to start winning. Minnesota was his only win on the board so far. That came on Super Tuesday, a surprise to some. But how does he find a path to win? It doesn't seem to me, sir. It doesn't seem to me that this, not conservative enough. We need a conservative Republican. That doesn't seem to be selling this year like it did in 2014.
Well, I also think we need a conservative Republican who can win in November. And if you look at the polls, the only person who can do that is Marco Rubio. Now, you hear Donald Trump say that he can win. If you look at the numbers in places like Colorado and other states where he needs to win, we need to win for Republicans in order to secure the White House. Donald Trump loses badly, and yet Marco Rubio wins. And look, you don't run a race to finish fifth and then somehow claim that you can move up to first. You run a race to win. Marco has a 50-state strategy in place. He's worked hard. He knows this is going to be a fight from now through the convention, and that's what his plan is to do. I think if you're somebody who's only getting 4 or 5% on primary or caucus days, then you're probably not going to have the shot that you need, and all you're doing is trying to run for honorable mention. And look, Governor Kasich has run a heck of a good race, but at some point we have to consolidate around the person who can actually defeat Hillary Clinton while also securing the Republican nominee with the right conservative values. And last night we saw Marco Rubio take it to Donald Trump, and we saw Donald Trump flip-flop on a number of positions, and then in a release after the debate, he flip-flopped on his flip-flop during the debate.
And if you look at the matchup, if you put Marco Rubio against Hillary Clinton nationally, he consistently does very well, considerably better than Donald Trump consistently in the polls when it comes to a national matchup. That part is certainly true. But his message, it seemed like he had a good bit of momentum. Then it has faded. Maybe some has come back. What's it really going to take, do you think, for his message to catch fire here in Michigan or in Ohio or in Missouri or any of the states that remain, to get his message out there, to give him buoyancy? Not just John Kasich leaving the race potentially, but what's it going to take to get his message to catch on?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think if you look at Michigan, Marco's got to continue to do everything he can to get to every nook and cranny of Michigan to talk about the need to give people hope again for this country, what he's going to do to help people put food on their table, to pay rent, to afford college, to propose economic policies that are going to get government out of the way. Look, regulations have driven a spike in job creation throughout this country, particularly here in places like Detroit, in Michigan, where failed government policies have driven cities into bankruptcy, have driven corporations out of the state. Tax policies, regulatory policies on growth, permitting processes at the federal level and state levels across the board that take far too long to create jobs and opportunity. That's what he's got to do to convince the American people that instead of having less income this year than they did the year before, instead of being forced to work more hours for fewer dollars, Marco's going to continue to drive his message home to the American people, to the people of Michigan, that he is the one who can turn this around. He is the one who can make people put into a better tomorrow than they are today. And that's a tough task, but that's what he has to spend every hour doing.
So let me ask you this. At one point last night, Marco said, listen, if Trump is the nominee, I will support him because he's better than Hillary Clinton and another 4 years of Barack Obama. Are you one of the Republicans that would support the nominee, or are you somebody like Mitt Romney says, this is a terrible idea for America?
Well, look, I think a Republican will be better than Hillary Clinton any day. And right now, I'm not even sure it's going to be Hillary Clinton, because if you look at Bernie Sanders, he almost, if not did, win Colorado. I think they're still counting the votes from Super Tuesday. And so I don't want to engage in hypotheticals about the who it is going to be the Republican nominee, because I do think it's going to be Marco Rubio.
And let me ask you,
I think we have a heck of a good fight ahead of us. Yeah.
Let me ask you one more question before we run out of time here, Senator, and that is on the vacancy left behind by Antonin Scalia. Mitch McConnell and other Republicans have said, listen, we should not even take it up. We should not take a vote. Is that your position, that we should stand firm against this administration and wait until the next president to select and confirm a Supreme Court justice?
We're deep in the heart of an election. Just this upcoming few weeks, we're going to have votes taken here in Michigan. We had a number on Super Tuesday. deep in the heart of the election, we should wait for the American people to make their decision when we have this election in November.
All right, Cory Gardner, Senator Cory Gardner, where are you on your way to first today on your tour?
We're going to be here in Detroit this morning and then in Lansing this afternoon and doing everything we can to make sure Marco Rubio is become the President of the United States.
Senator Cory Gardner, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Senator
Cory Gardner from the state of Colorado on tour for Marco Rubio today. You're listening to The Steve Gruber Show.
Getting your day started with news from around the state and around the world. Common Sense Radio. This is The Steve Gruber Show.
No, I won't back down. You can stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back
All right,
down.
continue to sort it out from the debate at the Fox Theater in Detroit last night, and Senator Gardner will be in Detroit today or this morning, and then Lansing later in the afternoon. Senator Gardner, one of the folks that swept into power in 2014, unseated an incumbent senator, Mark Udall, whose brother is a senator from another state, by the way. That's part of how the Republicans ended up in charge with 54 seats. Cory Gardner, part of that sweep. And you wonder if is that going to be at risk if Donald Trump is at the top of the ticket? You know, some would have you believe that if Donald Trump is at the top of the ticket, that Republican victories in 2014 will quickly be erased in 2016. You know, I find that hard to believe considering the fact that Republicans picked up hundreds of seats in the last go-around, hundreds of seats, and as a result, you know, took over the Senate and the House with historic levels. So I don't think that it's all going to be swept away with one term, because the anger in the voters is not at Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders for that matter. The anger in the voters is at this administration and this place we are in the country. The anger is with Barack Obama and this notion that 4 more years of Barack Obama. That's where the anger is. Again, Barack Obama. This is what. Barack Obama gave us both Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. I mean, how else would you explain it? The discontent in the country spreads across not just the Republican Party, but the Democratic Party as well. Now, I've never seen a Republican Party turning on its own the way it is with Donald Trump. Well, he's not a Republican. Well, he says he is. And let me explain something to you. Let's reiterate. Reince Priebus, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, dragged Donald Trump into a meeting to get him to say, all right, I will support the eventual nominee and I won't run third party. And now what do you have? The rest of the party turning on Donald Trump. Is their word not worth anything? That's what I don't like. I don't like daylight hit jobs when it comes to character assassination and so forth. I don't like it a bit. And so, you know, we have to keep an eye on that. Yeah. So, all right. Are we there? All right. Here's something else I've talked to you about for some time that should be an election year issue, and it's about to be, because the president is on his way to Cuba here in the next couple of weeks, right? And the big conversation is about the U.S. naval station at Guantanamo Bay. It's a critical national security and foreign policy asset to the United States. And I've been warning you for a very long time that at some point, the president's going to say, you know what, here's my wedding gift to you, Cuba. Here's my wedding gift to the Castros. He's going to give Guantanamo Bay back to the Cubans, potentially. And people told me I was in left field. Well, guess what? The House Foreign Affairs Committee chairman, Ed Royce, Republican of California, introduced legislation yesterday that would prohibit President Obama from returning Guantanamo back to the Cubans without approval of Congress. Now, why would he have to do that? Why would he have to do that if he believes that the president would follow the rules and follow the laws? The move comes amid growing Republican fears. That's why that the administration will seek to return the base, which houses the Guantanamo Bay detention facility. They're afraid he's going to try to give it back to Cuba during the president's trip later this month. Exactly what I told you would happen. Exactly what I told you would happen. We'll see if it does, but they're making moves now to try to prevent that from happening. And another giant story yesterday, and you probably missed it in all of the noise and confusion. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts rejected a plea yesterday to block a contentious air pollution rule for power plants. It's a huge victory for the Obama administration, and it makes exactly no sense. I mean, they must have photographs of this guy somewhere. Explicit photographs of this guy somewhere doing something inappropriate, because Roberts' order came despite the court's 5-4 decision last year ruling that the Environmental Protection Agency's regulation, known as the Mercury and Air Toxic Standards, is illegal. Michigan led a group of 20 states last month, empowered by the Supreme Court's recent unprecedented decision to halt the EPA's carbon dioxide rule for power plants, and asked the court to live up to its ruling last year and block the regulation's enforcement. Unless this court stays or enjoins further operation of the Mercury and Air Toxics rule, this court's recent decision in Michigan v. EPA will be thwarted, the states wrote, which makes sense. However, Chief Justice John Roberts acted swiftly, waiting less than a day after the EPA's response to side with the Obama administration. He acted unilaterally, electing to reject the request himself rather than take it to the full court, which may have led to a 4-4 split following Justice Antonin Scalia's death. How can he even do that? The court has already ruled 5-4. The ruling has already came and went. The Supreme Court put an unprecedented halt to the carbon rule known as the Clean Power Plan last month, 5-4. That's when Roberts chose to let the whole court vote on the matter. Thursday's action by Roberts is completely separate from that case. But EPA spokeswoman Melissa Harrison said on Thursday the agency is very pleased with the order. He caved. He completely caved in. This guy. Free for All Friday. Who would you vote for? Those are the questions going forward. We'll start taking your calls again in a moment or two. 888-900-9966. 888-900-9966. Back in a moment on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, welcome back to it. Free for All Friday. Your voices are welcome here. What did you make of the exchange in Detroit at the Fox Theater? We'll be taking your calls at the top of the hour again. Big show ahead of you today. Let's go to the phone line, by the way. John's on the line calling in from Portage on the Free for All hotline. John, welcome to it.
Good morning, Steve. I didn't get the opportunity to see the debate last night, but I'm kind of chuckling because I really think that those people that want to talk about candidates with small hands have extremely small minds. And I found it very, very interesting that Mitt Romney 4 years ago was begging for the endorsement of Donald Trump and took it willingly and said he was the most wonderful guy on the face of the earth. And all of a sudden, because bigger money in the Republican Party has bought him off now he's going to say something entirely different. It's very, very interesting. Mitt is very, very weak type person, obviously.
We would have preferred him in the White House as to what we have, I believe. But that didn't happen. So, it's interesting to me that the words coming out of Mitt's mouth are identical to the words coming out of Marco's mouth. I mean, don't think for a second it's not coordinated.
Well, it's the same thing that's coming out of some supposedly security people, all saying the same thing, even saying, well, the position of Donald Trump on Muslims is so anti-Muslim that, it's going to affect the world. It isn't anti-Muslim. It says control immigration or control those coming into this country, not the people in this country. It has nothing to do with the people in this country. And so they're all off point, and they say anything because they don't want to lose power. It's all about the top Republicans losing power, including Mitch including Ryan. And
I don't disagree with you there. I think that their fear is not losing to Hillary Clinton in November. I think that there's a lot of truth to that. I think they have more fear of Donald Trump winning and not respecting their little clique, their little club. I think there's some truth there, John. Thanks for checking in. It is Free for All Friday. The phone line is open, 888-900-9966. We'll be right back on the Steve Gruber Show.
This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me, gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Been a long education.
Yeah, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
My homework is
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
Well, all paths go through Michigan right now on the way to the White House. All paths go through Michigan. On the Democratic side and the Republican side. Of course, the Republicans were at the Fox Theater in Detroit last night. More of a food fight for a good few minutes before they got into an actual debate. We'll get back to that in just a moment. But, because we're equal opportunity here, we're going to go ahead and start with Bernie Sanders first. Bernie Sanders was in and around Lansing yesterday. Stopped by a restaurant of some friends of mine. I know that. I didn't stop by for lunch. I knew he was there, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't go because I figured he'd be crowded by a bunch of folks, and I just didn't do it. Anyhow, Bernie Sanders says the Democratic candidate says all these deals that we make as far as trade go are devastating to people in Michigan and elsewhere around the country. It's clip 5. Go.
1960, 56 years ago, the wealthiest city in the United States of America was Detroit, Michigan. Anyone know that? Detroit, Michigan, the wealthiest city in America, with the largest private sector employer, a company called General Motors. Today, Detroit is the poorest big city in the United States with a poverty rate of almost 40%. From 1998 to 2011, half of Detroit's auto workforce lost their jobs. But it is not just Detroit. Over the past 15 years, the state of Michigan has lost 1/3 of its manufacturing jobs. The most significant reason for this economic decline is our failed trade policies.
Failed trade policies such as the North American Free Trade Agreement and now the Trans-Pacific Partnership. But he fails to mention, Bernie's right, by the way. Detroit was the wealthiest city, according to the United States Census Bureau in 1960. The wealthiest per capita city in America was Detroit in 1960. It has been run solely by Democrats since 1962. And that information about the 1960 census came out in 61 or 62. Since that time, the last Republican mayor of Detroit left office in 1962. It has been a single-party system. Much like, what Bernie Sanders wants for everybody. Detroit has been a single-party system since 1962. And now he points out that Detroit is the poorest city. Also true. Let me go back and point to the illustration. Run by a single party, the Democrats, since 1962 has been Detroit, Michigan. So there you have it. He's right. And he's also right that these trade agreements haven't worked very well, which might explain the rise of Donald Trump and the anger in America, in part. Who would you vote for today, by the way? Did you watch the debate? Who would you vote for? Are you disgusted by the rhetoric, by the swamp wrestling, and the finger pointing, and the comments about small hands and big, and the nonsense? This is not a serious discussion. This is a fifth grade food fight. part of the time. Now, when they get to the conversations, some of them are very important. For example, Donald Trump, when asked about torture and how we get terrorists to talk and would you go after people's families and waterboarding. This is an important conversation, things that people need to know. Here's from the debate last night. Donald Trump, go.
Can you imagine these people, these animals over in the Middle East that chop off heads, sitting around talking and seeing that we're having a hard problem with waterboarding? We should go for waterboarding, and we should go tougher than waterboarding.
But targeting terrorist families?
And I'm a leader. I've always been a leader. I've never had any problem leading people. If I say do it, they're going to do it. That's what leadership is all about.
Even targeting terrorist families?
Well, look, you know, when a family flies into the World Trade Center, a man flies into the World Trade Center, and his family gets sent back to where they were going, and I think most of you know where they went. And by the way, it wasn't Iraq. But they went back to a certain territory. They knew what was happening. The wife knew exactly what was happening. They left 2 days earlier with respect to the World Trade Center, and they went back to where they went, and they watched their husband on television flying into the World Trade Center, flying into the Pentagon, and probably trying to fly into the White House, except we had some very, very brave souls on that third plane. All right?
So the question is, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about waterboarding or taking on a family? Yeah, I don't think he's necessarily wrong. He's talking about Saudi Arabia, of course. I don't think he's necessarily wrong about the families knowing. I mean, how do you go back and target somebody or where they came from without collateral damage? That unfortunately, what do you do about that? I'm looking for good answers here. But you can't put your entire foreign policy on hold because somebody's going to get hurt. Of course somebody's going to get hurt. Almost 4,000 of our fellow citizens died on 9/11. People get hurt. And from what I can tell, not a single person that died on 9/11 was an enemy combatant, was not a soldier, was not in a battle somewhere, was not attacking anybody. They were going to work. The hotline number is 888-900-9966. Would you vote for Donald Trump? Would you support waterboarding? Do you support water? Do you enhanced interrogation? Do you support it? Are you opposed to it? Tell me why. Tell me where we are with this. You know, and voters are angry. I can tell you that. You know, and that's why there's been the rise of Donald Trump. But you know, Bernie Sanders, who you heard just there, and Donald Trump, who you heard there, the rise of these two comes directly as a result of Barack Obama, without any question. I mean, if you listen to the Democrats on the trail, you know, we have to do better. There are people that are being left out. And well, how could that be? We've had hope and change for 8 years. How could there be all these bad things going on? Because your guy, the policies that you want to continue and extend and expand, has been in charge for 8 years. And it's gotten worse. We have more people in poverty, more people on food stamps, more people that don't own homes. Incomes going down every year for the last 7 years. Average income in America going down every year for 7 years. Home ownership, the lowest that it's been in decades. This is what hope and change has brought us 7 years later. We want to do more of this? Why would you want to do more of this? And then the big question. The big question for the election of November 2016. Are you safer, do you believe, than you were 4 years ago? Are you safer than you were 4 years ago? That is, to me, is the pivotal question. Are you better off and are you safer? 888-900-9966. When we come back, we'll break down the debate, the food fight, and the nonsense with Aaron Kall, the director of the University of Michigan debate program, right after this on the Steve Gruber Show.
Keeping you in touch with Michigan and the world.
All right, welcome back to Free for All Friday. Who would you vote for? Why? What do you make of the discourse at the Fox Theater in Detroit? First, we're going to go to Traverse City. Ron on the hotline this Free for All Friday. Ron, welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was commenting about the waterboarding thing. I don't see anything wrong with it. Those people are bad over there. And, like, those people that were here and they went back, their family or whatever, their kids are probably just going to grow up and try and follow in their dad's shoes anyway.
Well, what's left of his shoes after he blows himself up. Yeah, fair point. You're in Traverse City. You going down to Cadillac today for the big Donald Trump rally, or are you with a different candidate? Who do you support?
Well, I like both. I like a lot of the things about Ted Cruz, but I like a lot of the things that Donald Trump says. But whether or not he's going to do what he says he's going to do or not, I think Ted Cruz would do what he says, but I just don't know about Trump. But a lot of the things that he says are true. That's why people like him. He's saying what's on people's minds, and everybody's too politically correct to disagree with or whatever.
Fair enough, Ron. I agree with that. Yeah, he's saying the things that other people will not say. Ron, thank you for checking in from Traverse City today. Real quickly to Mark on the line, on the hotline in Weberville. Mark, welcome to it.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me on your show. It's a great show, by the way.
Thank you.
I would not vote for Donald Trump. He's kind of a ticking time bomb. My endorsement goes for Ted Cruz. Anybody who can filibuster 16-plus hours against Obamacare, I think has the knowledge to run the country for everything positive that we have to offer. I do not feel safer at this day and age, 8 years later, after Obamacare. I do feel safer, although with the fact that I am carrying.
Well, that part I understand. Let me ask you this, though, Mark, before I let you run, though. You said you wouldn't support Donald Trump. So if Donald Trump gets the nomination, then what are you going to do?
Hope and pray for the best, I guess,
I mean, you're not...
Hopefully, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you're not going to vote for a Democrat, I'm guessing, but I got to run, Mark. I greatly appreciate it. Hope and pray for the best. Would you support him? That's the last question. Yes or no?
No.
All right. So you're going to, in effect, see, that's the concern for a lot of folks. If people like Mark won't vote, then Hillary Clinton gets the nod and basically gets a third term for the White House. Kall is on the line now, the director of the University of Michigan debate program. He's here with us after these debates on a regular basis. Aaron, welcome back.
Thank you.
I would call it more, it was the rancor, the food fight, the name calling, the finger pointing might have been actually worse for the first few minutes last night than it has been previously, but then they got on to having a conversation about some things that mattered finally. So what are you thinking?
Yeah, it was kind of a mixture of the ad hominem attacks like we saw last time, but also they did squeeze some substance into there, and I thought that overall they probably Cruz and Kasich maybe had the best overall night, but I'm not sure that anybody landed a knockout punch of the front runner Trump, and I would expect to have him be in the same position going forward, and not much change in the overall horse race.
It's interesting. You mentioned, and I did see some comments. One comment I just saw a moment ago where they said this is the first time that Kasich has really shined to them, and I was seeing comments from people that were in the theater, and so maybe Kasich did have a good night. The problem with John Kasich, though, is his path to the White House, as he explains it, is a default path. He wins Ohio, blocks Trump from getting enough delegates, and then wins in a brokered convention. So I don't know if that sits well with the American people. Not your side of the street, I realize, but what I'm saying, I guess, maybe too little too late for John Kasich.
Yeah, I think that may be the case for all the candidates. I think I don't really see a path for anyone except some kind of brokered convention where Trump doesn't get the magic number of delegates, and they have to go to a second or possibly even further ballot. But no, Kasich, I thought, had a solid night, but he was a little bit uneven, although some of it was beyond his control. At the first 30 minutes or so, he was kind of absent of the debate. He didn't get his first question until about 15 minutes in, was prevented from coming into a few exchanges. But as the night went on, and especially as the debate shifted to foreign policy, I thought that really played to his strength. And,
let me ask you this, Aaron, because that I think you're not wrong about that. I think that once he got to talking, he got some momentum there. But the problem is, a lot of folks, if they tune in for the first 15 or 20 minutes, they're like, this is ridiculous, and they leave. And if that's all they saw of the debate, and that's what a lot of people, they come in, they sample, and they think this is just a joke, and they leave.
No, that's true. And it's obviously the ratings are going to decline as the night goes on. And although I thought they did a pretty good job of having a good pace to the debate and keeping people's interest. But no, if you just tuned into the first 30 minutes or so, you may have not even known that he was there. You'd have to really be committed, and that's not the case that everybody is.
No, you'd have some indication of how well endowed Donald Trump was. That's the indication you'd have in the first 15 minutes, apparently.
Yes,
because the level of discourse,
excellent beginning to the debate.
Yeah, it's absurd in many ways. But and I guess my last question for you today, Aaron, and you're the debate coach: are debates the best way to select a president of the United States?
Probably not. Certainly, the way in which we've seen them play out this cycle, especially with so many candidates. I mean, the field now has been widowed down to 4 candidates. Yet it still kind of lacked a total substantive debate. It was a combination of the insults and substance, but that's the system we have, and I still think that you learn a lot. You want to see how candidates, the office of president, handle things being thrown at you, and you kind of want to see how people react in that real-time situation. So it may not be ideal, but it's the best system we have and still very valuable.
Aaron Kall, always a pleasure, the director of the University of Michigan Debate Program, and I'm sure we'll talk probably Monday after the Democrats do it again. Aaron, thank you so much.
See you then.
Keeping you in touch with Michigan and the world.
All right, it's Free for All Friday. Thanks for stopping in. The hotline number is 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. When it comes to world events and foreign policy and so forth, nothing gets more attention than ISIS, of course, and nothing gets more attention than what's going on in Iraq and Syria. And our next guest has been there. Shea was embedded with the Kurdish military, better known as the Peshmerga, a small group there in northern Iraq, but a hardened fighting force that, despite being ignored in many ways by the United States and the Western powers, they have held their own because they know how to take on ISIS, and apparently they know how to win. Shea, welcome to the program.
Thanks very much.
All right, so tell me about... first of all, just I guess paint us a little word picture. What does the territory look like there? What's the terrain like? What is the atmosphere that you embedded yourself into?
Well, the Kurdistan is about the size. Iraqi Kurdistan is about the size of Switzerland, and it's very mountainous in most of its areas. Sort of a dry desert-like mountain situation, and then in the winter it can be very, very cold. And then Kurdistan down in the southern parts runs into desert. So you get into places like Kirkuk where there's a lot of oil. That starts to look very much like the Middle Eastern desert that people would think of when they think of Iraq. So the front line where the Kurds are fighting ISIS runs from that desert territory up into the north where it's much more mountainous. So you've got really a range of conditions. And when we were embedded, we were able to travel through most of this front line with the Kurdish military. And they were gracious hosts. They showed us pretty much without hesitation anything that we wanted to see.
So when were you there? Give me the time frame of the dates you were there. And how long were you there?
Let's see. I've been to Kurdistan several times. We did most of the reporting for the magazine article, which is out in the March issue of National Geographic, in April and May of last year. And then we also were there in October of last year as well for the television show and also the magazine.
So why is it, do you think, Neil,
that... Go ahead.
I was going to say, why is it, do you think, that this group, the Peshmerga, because, people know who they are, I know who they are, people hear about them here and there. They've been able to draw the line. They've been able to push back, to not lose and get run over by ISIS. What is their technique? What is their talent? What is their ability that others don't seem to have?
Well, I think, Steve, at the beginning they did sort of get pushed back by ISIS, and it looked for a while like they were going to get run over by ISIS. But with a little bit of Western help in the form of airstrikes, the Kurds were able to sort of shake themselves together and make a stand against ISIS. I think the most important thing in that resistance was that their homeland was being invaded. So they had nowhere to go. They had to fight for their lives and fight for their families. And that makes anybody a more aggressive fighter, I think. What we've seen since then is that the Kurds have really come into their own as fighters, and they really feel very proud and very loyal to their country in a way that the Iraqi army has never seemed to do. The Iraqi army, which is composed largely of Shia Arabs and Sunni Arabs from the south, it collapsed when it faced ISIS and continued to collapse for a long time. Only now does it seem like it's getting back on its feet.
Yeah, and not and certainly not in all areas. We're on the line with Neil Shea.
No.
We're on the line with Neil Shea, an award-winning National Geographic writer who is embedded with the Peshmerga, the Kurdish military. Neil, it's been a long time since Iraq was whole. I don't think Iraq will ever be whole again. A lot of people believe that now. Will there be a Kurdistan? Do the Kurds, do the Peshmerga, do they want their own territory in northern Iraq? In effect, they have a de facto state now. Would that be fair to say?
It's true. They have it's complicated words. They have a semi-autonomous region, which means that the Kurds have their own parliament, their own functioning democracy, their own military, their own oil pipelines, but they're still federally part of Iraq. Most Kurds that I've ever talked to want their own state, and I think that what we're going to see is just the push for that is going to become much more forceful, because right now the Kurds are doing most of the work in the battle against ISIS, and I think that they will deserve to be sort of rewarded for that effort when all of this is over.
So semi-autonomous territory, and you mentioned they have some oil and so forth. What else do they have going for them there? I think it would be a dry, arid place, obviously, a tough place to make a living, if you will. If you're running cows and trying to do anything agriculturally, it'd be difficult. And they're landlocked. What are their fortunes hold for them?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's one that young Kurds are asking themselves right now. When times are good, they have a big oil infrastructure, and the oil can flow. They can make a lot of money with that stuff. But as we know, oil prices are down now at their lowest for a while. So the Kurdish economy, like the Iraqi economy, is suffering from that. The Kurds are sort of an ingenious people, so they have a lot of other operations going, a lot of small industries. There is a lot of agriculture, particularly up in the north, but most of it's small scale. So right before ISIS came, the Kurds were seeing sort of this decade of development and investment where things were going really well. And when ISIS came and the economy started to shudder, things sort of went south. And so that's the big question for Kurdistan now is how is it going to keep the momentum going?
So you're most recently there in October, I guess. So that's going to be our latest update there, Neil. Give me an idea of how things stand today going forward against ISIS. ISIS had some setbacks on other fronts in recent weeks and months. So maybe the Kurds are not nearly as critical to them or a priority the way they once were. Where does it stand today? What do you foresee happening, at least in that region?
Well, as far as I know from talking to people who are still there, and I do have a lot of friends who are still in Kurdistan, the front line hasn't changed that much. The Kurds have really solidified their territory. They've kept ISIS out, and they've retaken a lot of territory that ISIS took from them. So cities like Sinjar, the Yazidi city that was particularly hard hit when ISIS rolled in. The next big thing is going to be the capture or the recapture of the city of Mosul. Mosul is an Iraqi town. It's not a Kurdish city, but the Kurds will be instrumental in trying to take that city back from ISIS. ISIS has been in Mosul since the beginning of this, near the beginning of this war. They've had 2 years to entrench themselves in the city. So now it's going to be a big test for the Iraqi army and for the Kurds helping them.
So there's a long way to go here. What is your impression of where ISIS is today as far as their, I don't know what the right word is, their general health as a fighting group?
I think they're on their back foot. I think for the first time in a while we can say that ISIS territory is shrinking. We've seen that go go backwards for them. I think that they've been particularly hampered by Allied airstrikes against them in Iraq and Syria.
Right.
I think that they're having more trouble recruiting now, although I don't know for sure. But we've seen ISIS start to shrink and start to crumple under sort of the pressure of the Kurdish assault, the Iraqi assault, and Allied airstrikes. So I think we'll see that continue.
All right, Neil Shea is here with us, award-winning National Geographic writer. Of course, it's in the magazine this month, you being embedded with the Kurdish military and the sights and sounds and pictures and words. The TV show is when and where?
It's on the Nat Geo channel on Sunday night at 9 Eastern.
And it's called what?
It's called Fighting ISIS.
All right, Fighting ISIS coming up. Nat Geo, it premieres March the 6th. 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. Neil Shea, good conversation. Fascinating stuff that you're doing out there.
Thank you very much.
Greatly appreciate it. Neil Shea here from the National Geographic. Fascinating. It's the Steve Gruber Show on a Free-for-All Friday.
The Steve Gruber Show. American values with Midwestern common sense.
Never before have I turned on you. You look too good to me. Your beady eyes that can trap me in two, and I just can't let you be. But it's a free for all, and I'm hard to said. You can bet your life. Stakes are high, and so am I. It's in the air.
All right, welcome to it. Your phone calls are encouraged. 888-900-9966. How are you going to vote on Tuesday? 888-900-9966. How are you going to vote on Tuesday? A lot of people angry about the level of discourse in the debate last night, no question. It was childish, frankly. If you tuned in for the first 15 or 20 minutes and that was your only impression of the debate, wow. Wouldn't be much to go on. You know, Donald Trump talking about he has big hands and therefore it means, you know, just it's unbelievable. It is truly unbelievable. And then, of course, earlier in the day, you had Mitt Romney out there, you know, doing the hit job. Of course, Mitt Romney has nothing to lose unless he thinks he's positioning himself for some sort of a savior role to be elevated to the nominee again for the Republicans, which, if that happened, the supporters of Donald Trump, Republicans and Democrats alike, would scream foul. They wouldn't turn out to vote, I don't believe. It would be an abject failure. See, here's the thing. You've put the process in place. You made Donald Trump come to a meeting with Reince Priebus, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, and affirm his dedication to the eventual Republican nominee without running a third-party candidacy, because the Republicans felt that that would destroy them, and they never believed, for whatever delusional reason, that Donald Trump could win. See, they still don't understand the anger between the coasts. They don't understand that all of these bad policies have caused people to struggle in a poor economy, make less money, find it harder to get their mortgage payment each month. See, they don't realize all of this anger that's going on out there, that they feel that, you know, illegals coming over the border are taking their jobs. True or not, it's what it's reality is what they perceive. Perception is reality. And so they got Trump to say that he would support the eventual nominee. And now the Republicans are turning on Trump. Mitt Romney, again, came out yesterday, and he said, if Trump becomes the nominee or becomes president, the prospects for a safe future are greatly diminished. Clip 1, go.
If we Republicans choose Donald Trump as our nominee, the prospects for a safe and prosperous future are greatly diminished. Let me explain why I say that. First, on the economy. If Donald Trump's plans were ever implemented, the country would sink into prolonged recession. A few examples. His proposed 35% tariff-like penalties would instigate a trade war, and that would raise prices for consumers, kill our export jobs, and lead entrepreneurs and businesses of all stripes to flee America. His tax plan, in combination with his refusal to reform entitlements and to honestly address spending, would balloon the deficit and the national debt. So even though Donald Trump has offered very few specific economic plans, what little he has said is enough to know that he would be very bad for American workers and for American families. But you say, wait. Isn't he a huge business success? Doesn't he know what he's talking about? No, he isn't. And no, he doesn't. His bankruptcies have crushed small businesses and the men and women who work for them. He inherited his business. He didn't create it. And whatever happened to Trump Airlines? How about Trump University? And then there's Trump Magazine and Trump Vodka and Trump Steaks and Trump Mortgage. A business genius he is not.
And that's the way it started yesterday. And so I look at that, and I consider that it's kind of a misguided missile, if you will. You know, Mitt Romney out there, you know, wading into the swamp of the GOP race for the nomination, wading into the swamp and then complaining about the smell. You know, talking about the discourse and then coming in and chucking bombs. You know, being a bomb thrower. You know, I don't think it did Mitt Romney any good. I think it diminished diminished him. And I think, if anything, it probably helped Donald Trump solidify a couple more points in the polls because people are like, well, he's getting attacked again. Of course, Donald Trump had to come back and say something about it. Here's what Donald Trump had to say about Mitt Romney. And this was all before the debate yesterday. Clip 2, go.
Now, I heard, and I saw just a little bit of it, but I heard that Mitt Romney made a fairly long speech. And I mean, honestly, I thought I'll just address it quickly because it's irrelevant. Look, Mitt is a failed candidate. He failed. He failed horribly. The third debate, he failed badly. That was a race, I have to say, folks, that should have been won. That was a race that absolutely should have been won. And I don't know what happened to him. He disappeared. And I wasn't happy about it, I'll be honest, because I am not a fan of Barack Obama, and that was a race that I backed Mitt Romney. I backed him. You can see how loyal he is. He was begging for my endorsement. I could have said, Mitt, drop to your knees. He would have dropped to his knees. He was begging. Sure. Mitt was thinking about running again. He ran a horrible campaign. It was a campaign that should have never been lost. You're running against a failed president. He came up with the 47%. He demeaned 47% of the people in our country, right? The famous 47%. Once that was said, I'll be honest, a lot of people thought it was over for him. So when Mitt started raising his head a few months ago, I was very strong. I said, Mitt Romney should not run. He's a choke artist. And I said it very strongly. And I think he probably still has a desire, maybe at the convention, to try and get some kind of a thing. Hillary Clinton will destroy him in the election. Assuming she's allowed to run, assuming she's not arrested for the email situation.
Assuming she is not arrested. One listener referring to Mitt Romney as a suicide bomber for the Republican establishment. There's probably a lot of accuracy to that. Again, I don't think Mitt did himself any good. He probably did Trump a little bit more good than himself. It is Free for All Friday. We'll be taking your calls after the top of the hour again. 888-900-9966. Back after this.
This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical, it's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
It is Free for All Friday, my friends. Thanks for dialing it in. Greatly appreciate your support. 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. Michigan, the center of the political universe for 3 or 4 more days. Donald Trump, after the debate last night from Detroit, he is headed to Cadillac. He'll be in Cadillac for a rally today, one of the places he'll be stopping. John Kasich is having an event in Traverse City tomorrow, I know, and the other candidates are moving around as well around the state. We just spoke a little while ago to Senator Cory Gardner from Colorado. He is cruising from Detroit to Lansing with Marco Rubio, and they are discussing Rubio's plans for the future. Rubio, of course, still hanging in there, trying to become the alternative to Donald Trump, but he only has one win to his name. John Kasich, meanwhile, thinking that he might be able to figure out a way to become the nominee by way of a brokered convention. What are your thoughts? When you watched the debate last night, certainly the first few minutes, the level of discourse is appalling. It's absolutely appalling, but that's what we got. Once they got into the conversation, some important things were said. But where does that leave you? Who are the four people up there? If you're going to vote for a Republican, do you support and why? Give me a call, 888-900-9966. Sam is on the line in Grand Rapids to discuss it. Sam, welcome to the program.
Yeah, good morning. I was listening to the dust-up between Romney and Trump, and a couple months ago when Trump had his rally here in Grand Rapids, my son and I went to the rally. I'm not really necessarily a Trump supporter. I went more out of curiosity, much as how people look at car wrecks. But what I found interesting yesterday was that Romney said that Trump is not a success, and a man who's worth $10 billion and didn't start out with the $10 billion in the first place has to be a success. He's flying around on a 757 with gold-plated fixtures. And yes, he has declared bankruptcy in the past, but he's also come back from that. The Amway founders, they failed 6 or 7 times before they became billionaires. So there's a risk and reward thing. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. And in order to get the kind of rewards that Donald Trump has amassed in his life, he had to take some monumental risks.
Well, there's no question that many of the most successful people you hear about, whether it's Donald Trump or others, have gone bankrupt in their life. Now, he didn't go bankrupt. Some of the companies that he owned, he didn't personally go bankrupt. But you've heard many stories in America over time. The person went bankrupt 5 times before becoming, wildly successful, because there is that, it's that entrepreneurial spirit, I suppose, Sam, that people just keep, putting themselves out there and taking a shot at it. That's part of what America is now. As far as Mitt Romney goes, I'm confused about it only insofar as why they thought he was the guy to go out. Maybe because he's expendable. He has no skin in the game, really. He can go out and say whatever. He's not in this. He's not going to lose. But it was odd to me. But you know what? There was one comment, Sam. Trump has got a free ride to the White House, and all we got was this worthless hat or something. So if he has a free ride to the White House. When Romney said that, you know what occurred to me? They think that he's going to win. It's not that they think he's going to lose to Hillary. They think he's going to win. Maybe it's a dog off the leash. I think that's a bigger concern for him. And Romney said it yesterday again. Anyhow, Sam, are you going to vote for Trump if he's the nominee?
They're worried. They're worried that he's a loose cannon and he won't toe the Republican machine line. And I tend to agree. One thing with Romney is that I worry about some of Trump's policies possibly harming the economy, at least in the short run. I've taken a lot of economic classes in my time, but he couldn't be any worse for my wallet than Hillary or Bernie.
Well, he can't be worse than Bernie, Sam, unless you think 90% tax rates are good for you. But I thank you so much for checking in. Sam checking in Grand Rapids, listening to WJRW over there. Your comments are encouraged as well. Again, 888-900-9966. He gets a free ride to the White House, and all we get is a lousy hat. So he gets a ride to the and that's Romney's comment. I've been telling you for some time that's what they think he's going to win, or they think it's entirely possible. They're not worried about him losing as much as they're worried about him winning. It appears to me. Now, let's go to the debate. A couple of comments that I thought were interesting. Speaking about Michigan specifically, Marco Rubio took on the issue of the Flint water situation, and I think he said some important things. Marco Rubio from the Fox Theater in Detroit. Go.
No, I've talked about it, and others in our campaign have talked about it, and other candidates have talked about it as well. What happened in Flint was a terrible thing. It was a systemic breakdown at every level of government, at both the federal and partially at both the state and partially at the federal level as well. And by the way, the politicizing of it, I think, is unfair, because I don't think that someone woke up one morning and said, let's figure out how to poison the water system to hurt someone. But accountability is important. I will say I give the governor credit. He took responsibility for what happened. And he's talked about people being held accountable and the need to change this, Governor Snyder. But here's the point. This should not be a partisan issue. The way the Democrats have tried to turn this into a partisan issue, that somehow Republicans woke up in the morning and decided, oh, it's a good idea to poison some kids with lead. It's absurd. It's outrageous. It isn't true. All of us are outraged by what happened, and we should work together to solve it. And there is a proper role for the government to play at the federal level in helping local communities to respond to a catastrophe of this kind, not just to deal with the people that have been impacted by it, but to ensure that something like this never happens again.
Thank you, Senator.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, that he struck on the same thing that we should all look at in this whole issue with Flint, and keep this in mind, because there is a Democratic debate. Because there is a Democratic debate on its way Sunday, where they're going to be in Flint, and make no mistake, they will spend the better part of their time there demonizing Republicans, trying to get people to believe that Republicans are evil and would intentionally poison children for $5, especially children of color for $5. That's the narrative. You know what you actually have to believe about the state of the human soul to actually subscribe to that point of view? You actually have to believe that Governor Snyder, you could believe he's incompetent. You could believe he's out of touch. You could believe he did something wrong. Okay, that's a far cry. That is a far cry from saying that he intentionally poisoned children. I mean, the darkness. What has to be in your heart to believe that is in somebody else's? Think about that. All right, so it's Free for All Friday, this part of the program. Brought to you by the Michigan 529 programs, making sure your kids and grandkids get the education they need. To learn more, go to SaveWithMI529.com. SaveWithMI529.com. It's Free for All Friday on the Steve Gruber Show. We'll be back with Liz Peek after this.
Keeping you in touch with Michigan and the world.
All right, welcome back to It's Free for All Friday here on the program. And, you know, again, if you only saw the first 15 or 20 minutes of the debate from the Fox Theater last night in Detroit, man, were you disappointed? You know, and it reminded me of John Belushi jumping up and screaming "food fight" in Animal House, quite literally. And can you imagine voters turning in for 15 or 20 minutes? That's what they saw, and then they move on? Well, Liz Peek here with us, columnist from FoxNews.com and the Fiscal Times. Liz, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
You know, if you turn in for 15 minutes and that's all you saw, well, it wasn't much to see at that point. Finger pointing and name calling, and Donald Trump declaring his, his manhood. It was bizarre in some ways.
Oh, it's so ugly. Yeah. And I think people are getting so turned off. You know, I have a lot of friends who just didn't bother to watch because they couldn't bear it. But the ones who did were pretty disgusted by the whole prospect. I think you're exactly right. And, you know, I mean, it was interesting because I think Donald Trump probably came to this forum last night intent on appearing more presidential. And I just don't think he can help himself. You know, he gets into this scrum, as someone called it last night, and it just becomes unbelievably personal and ugly. And, you know, it's amazing to me that people who support him can go along with that. I just don't see it.
Well, you don't see it, and yet here we go, and he continues to pick up support.
Yeah.
And Mitt Romney coming out and doing this, you know, whatever, meditated attack on him. I think it just helps Trump. I don't think what Mitt Romney did anything to dissuade anybody.
No, I think that's true, because he was, after all, speaking to the choir, wasn't he? I mean, the people who like Mitt Romney, who would tune in, who would pay attention to the, I thought, pretty cogent arguments that he made, they're not Trump supporters. The people who watched last night when Chris Wallace showed all those statistics that basically make, mincemeat of Donald Trump's policies. I mean, I stumble over the word policies because Donald Trump really doesn't have policies. He has opinions, and they do change, pretty radically from one month to the next. So, but I thought Wallace had some interesting facts that kind of undermined Donald Trump's talking about how he's going to save money in Medicare and so forth and so on. I don't think people are into that. They're just the Trump supporters who are willing to apparently lie down on a railroad track for him. They aren't interested in numbers and facts. They like the bluster. They want someone who is exactly the opposite of President Obama. And that's a story I wrote 6 months ago. It's amazing. People are just coming around to this now. But you could not ask for a better repudiation of this sort of willow-thin, nuanced, cerebral, wishy-washy person in the White House than Donald Trump. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, thunderclap, here he comes.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm going to, people are angry, and that's what you've been writing about a lot lately, so have I, but you focus on this anger that he has tapped into, but I want to focus on one line from Mitt Romney yesterday that struck me again, and this coming from the mainstream. He gets a free ride to the White House, and all we get is a lousy hat. I look at that. He gets a free ride to the White House. I think they think he's going to win. I think that's their fear. It's not that they didn't say here he's going to lose to Hillary Clinton. He's going to get a free ride to the White House. And it makes me wonder if the establishment is more concerned about him winning than losing.
Well, and that's worrisome because to my mind, I'd rather have Trump than Hillary. And I really think that electing Hillary Clinton is a very scary prospect. And I don't mean because she, in the absolute, is so horrifically different than Obama. The problem is she isn't horrifically different than Obama, and I think she really will make permanent a lot of the things that Obama has wanted to do, and by the way, make them forever permanent by putting someone on the Supreme Court who will basically cement the liberal majority on the Supreme Court. That is a really terrifying prospect to me.
Yeah.
But I think what you're saying is that perhaps the GOP mainstream or the party elders would almost rather see a loss in November to Hillary Clinton than to elect Donald Trump.
You'd have to wonder.
Yeah, you do wonder, and it would be so stupid, because here's why. I think Donald Trump is not at all a conservative. By the way, if nothing else alarms people about him, his donations to Hillary Clinton had nothing to do with business. 4 checks written to Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign really tells you a great deal. You don't write 4 checks unless you're really solidly behind a candidate. And I think people really should be asking themselves, if he was that much in Hillary Clinton's camp, how can he possibly be the person that I want to support? However, he is now attracting a lot of attention from people who are conservative, people who are independents. It's across the ideological spectrum, again, because he is not an ideologue. He doesn't have a true north in terms of ideology. He is a pragmatist, and I think a lot of people are kind of lining up behind him, hoping that once he's in the Oval Office, he'll make the right decisions. He'll make the decisions that the people who put him there want him to make. I think it's a stretch, but I'd rather go with that than cement Hillary Clinton and Obama's legacy in this country.
I think that on Donald Trump's compass, the true north is a face of Donald Trump. That's my guess. And Donald Trump, he could go and appoint somebody to the Supreme Court, somebody like as conservative as John Roberts after that maneuver yesterday with good Lord. And that's for a discussion for a different day. But John Roberts, what a disaster at this point, in my estimation. For a few different reasons. But okay, so here it is. It's the anger. He's tapped into it. I think that the establishment is concerned that he's going to go all the way. What changes that? We've got about 30 seconds here.
Well, clearly what Mitt Romney is hoping to do, and I thought he laid it out very well yesterday, is to have Trump blocked. And the way he can be blocked is in the winner-take-all states to have Kasich win Ohio, Rubio win Florida, and enough of these big states go away from Trump that he doesn't get the magic number of 1233 or whatever it is going into the convention.
1237,
Yeah, thank you, 1237.
That's right.
If he doesn't, then it's up for grabs. But I got to tell you, I think there'll be blood on the floor if they don't let him have the nomination.
Oh, there'll be blood on the floor, and a whole lot of people will never vote at that point. Liz, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Liz Peek from FoxNews.com and the Fiscal Times. You can check out her latest column. One big reason voters are angry and voting for Trump. Back in a moment on The Steve Gruber Show.
Taking a closer look at the stories that affect you most with a big dose of common sense.
Ground control to Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom.
All righty then, let's go back to the hotline. It's Free for All Friday.
Take your protein pills.
And I'm trying to get a gauge of what you guys are thinking as we work up to the primary here in Michigan on Tuesday. Donald Trump leading by a wide margin in all the polls that I've seen here in Michigan. And yet I hear so many people complain about it. But, hey, they say, what else are we going to do? I've had this conversation with lots of people. What else are we going to do? Who else are we going to vote for? For real. They're like, what else is there? On the hotline, Tim is there in Grand Rapids with some thoughts on the matter. Tim, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Steve. My one question I have is, I'm wondering since when did Chris Wallace and Fox News have such a handle on the economy? He was arguing and attacking Trump, as well as yesterday, Romney, Marco Rubio. I think what everyone needs to focus on is who can actually save this country from financial collapse. Now, the way I understand it, I've read where Donald Trump has 450-some companies, and only 4 of them have ever been declared bankrupt or went into bankruptcy.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Go on, Tim.
Well, Ted Cruz, he's a fine man. However, he would be bullied by those Washington elitists. He's talking flat taxes and those kind of things. They're never going to allow that. Never.
But it would be a nice thing, though, wouldn't it?
Being realistic.
Yeah, getting rid of the IRS, I think, would be a very good idea. I think it would be great for everybody. And, except for not for tax preparers. It would not be great for them. But so let me ask you this, Tim. Obviously, it sounds like you're a Trump supporter. Are you going to vote on Tuesday?
Oh, yes, definitely.
All right. Yep. Thanks for checking in, my friend. Tim in Grand Rapids, WJRW and GR. I was watching that last night, Ivy and I, commenting on Chris Wallace. It looked kind of like a setup. Well, here's the question. Well, Mr. Trump, that doesn't add up. Let's go to full screen number 2, full screen number 1. I thought that was odd. I don't remember ever seeing such a thing. Your numbers don't add up. Well, gee, if they had done that with Barack Obama during a debate and Hillary Clinton during a debate, their numbers wouldn't add up all that well either in some places. Back to the hotline, LJ checking in. LJ, welcome to the program.
Yeah, how do I start a presidential campaign?
You nominate me, number one, and then we go from there. And then once my name's in the ring, LJ, then we build a campaign, I guess.
Well, I'm half considering doing it because did you ever watch the show The Little Rascals?
Oh, sure.
Oh, this was worse than that.
Last night's
Three Stooges.
Yeah, it was in the gutter. It was non-productive. It was like recess in elementary school. Yeah. All right. So who are you going to support out of all of this, LJ?
Well, I guess I'm going to lean toward Cruz because, Rubio, oh, please. And Trump, well, he wasn't much better.
So what do you do if Trump is, in fact, the nominee? Because, it'll take an incredible surge by Ted Cruz to get the nomination, and Marco Rubio, unless he picks up a couple of wins here soon, is in mathematical trouble. So if Trump's the nominee, then what, LJ?
Well, it comes down to either, let's face it, with what was coming out in the news yesterday about Hillary, it'll probably end up being between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump because Hillary is going to be in jail.
Well, there is that possibility, LJ. Thanks for checking in, my friend.
That's
Greatly
why
appreciate
I was thinking about running myself because I can't do any worse than him.
Well, you can be a write-in candidate, LJ. There is that. LJ for president. Just write it in, folks, and yeah, he might pick up some votes. Let's see here. The hotline number is 888-900-9966. 888-900-9966. Tom is on the line in Charlotte checking in. Tom, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Steve. Love the show.
Thank you.
Hey, I'd just like to know where these questions come from and how Fox or CNN or anybody thinks they're productive in educating the American electorate on where these people actually stand. When you ask Ted Cruz something about Donald Trump, I don't give a crap what Ted thinks about Donald. I want to know, Ted, you've got a tax plan, explain it to us and how you think it'll work. Donald, what's your tax plan? No one seems to ask substantive. I made it 45 minutes through last night and was so disgusted and so embarrassed. And if I could just recommend to everyone out there listening, go to YouTube and look at Ronald Reagan, A Time for Choosing, during the Goldwater campaign, and his speech and the way he articulated the message of conservatism with humor, with dignity. And that's what we need. And honestly, even Ted Cruz, who I'm supporting, and I'll support Trump if he wins. I'm Republican. We need a Republican. But come on, this has just gotten so juvenile. I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, October the 27th, 1964, Tom, is when Ronald Reagan gave that speech. I know because it's my birthday. See, so I remember that, Tom.
Well,
let's see.
Yeah, and Steve, if you listen, what I find so amazing, because I've watched it several times in the last couple of weeks, everything he talks about are the exact same issues we're talking about today, which means after 50-plus years, we're still in the same boat.
Yeah, except that in those 50 intervening years, the country has been dragged over to the left to become much more of a nanny state. We spent $25 trillion on the Great Society of Lyndon Baines Johnson. Ironically, just a little bit more than we have in national debt. Tom, thank you for checking in. It is a great speech to watch. A Time for Choosing, Ronald Reagan, October the 27th, 1964. On the hotline now is Mike in Schwartz Creek. Mike, welcome to the program.
Yes, a couple points if I could. One is that I'm waiting for somebody to say about the $700 billion that Obama took out of Medicare. And secondly, I haven't had a raise in my Social Security 3 out of the 5 or 7 years he's been in office. And then thirdly, these guys, none of them have ever had a real job. Ted Cruz was an attorney for the state, Texas. But I listen to them talk, and they're like talking heads. They've never really done anything in their life. At least Trump has had a job of some sort. He's created jobs, good, bad, or indifferent. And they don't fulfill their promises. And the other thing, finally, is entitlements. I paid for Social Security, Medicare, and all that. Nobody gave it to me. So that's not really an entitlement.
No, it's insurance. That's why it's called Social Security insurance. You paid into it. You put your money into the system, so therefore it should come back to you, Mike. It's why it's called insurance. I agree with you on that. They list it as an entitlement, but the fact of the matter is when you get it back, you paid for it. The people that, didn't contribute anything and are taking money out of Social Security, and there might be some discussions there about who should be able to do that and who shouldn't, that would be an entitlement. Mike, thank you for checking in. That's Mike in Schwartz Creek. And the phone lines, I'm going to leave them open for the balance of the day. We've got Van Hipp coming up next, but that phone number, don't lose it. It's 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. Back in a flash here on a Free-for-All Friday edition of the Steve Gruber Show with Van Hipp.
Covering Michigan and the world from his bunker below the bridge. Here is Steve Gruber.
All right, well, CPAC is underway. The Conservative Political Action Conference in Washington, CPAC, underway. Dr. Ben Carson will be there. First time he has spoken since he effectively suspended his campaign. Of course, that was kind of interesting considering that, Dr. Carson hails from Detroit, and there's, a debate at the Fox Theater. Elegant place. The debate not so elegant, but the Fox Theater itself, an amazing and wonderful place that was showcased last night. And I think it was kind of interesting to a lot of people to be able to see the Fox Theater, and they go, "Oh my gosh, look at that place!" And you go, "Yeah, that's it." And anyhow, fighting terrorism. One of the conversations that is being held at CPAC this year, being led by one of our friends and regular contributor to the program, Van Hipp, who is the former Deputy Assistant Secretary to the U.S. Army, and a whole lot more. Van, welcome back to the program.
Steve, good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So how's the turnout there?
Amazing. I think we've registered something like 11,000 people, and you've got Rubio finally came through, so we've got all the remaining Republican presidential candidates speaking, and we had a living legend, America's national treasure, Buzz Aldrin, speak yesterday. So quite a lineup.
Yeah, Buzz Aldrin. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and a true patriot. People don't realize, not only did he have the longest walk in space at the time with Gemini 12, of course, he and Armstrong with the Eagle when it landed on the moon in 1969, July 20th, but people forget he was one of the first Americans to ever shoot down a MiG. And that was a time when they had a far superior aircraft to Buzz Aldrin shot down 2 MiGs in the Korean War.
You know what the problem is, Van? Most people that are, under 30 or 35 years of age don't realize why socialism is so damn scary to the rest of us, and how dangerous it is, and how people get, locked in chains, and how people get shot in the back of the head over socialism. They don't even consider it a scary word. You talk about Buzz Aldrin, they don't even know who that guy is.
Yeah. Well, he got a standing ovation, 2 of them yesterday at CPAC, I can tell you that.
Well, yeah, the people at CPAC know who he is. But what's frightening is that, American, the voters, they're so uneducated. I read an article here in Thomas. They don't even teach about the Holocaust in some schools anymore because it might offend somebody.
Unbelievable. Well, that's why I say in my book, education is a national security issue, and it is. And speaking of socialism, I'm reminded of what Winston Churchill said, and he's right. There are only 2 places where socialism will ever work: in heaven where it is not needed, and in hell where it is already in practice.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So what about terrorism? Okay, so let me ask you this, Van. There's a whole host of retired military people, national security people, so on and so forth, who have come out and said they will not, cannot, and never will support Donald Trump. Are you in that camp, or are you somewhere else?
No, I'm not. I'll tell you what. I said it yesterday at CPAC that both the Republican and Democrat parties have failed the American people on securing the border of this country. And the truth is, if we had enforced the law, if we had funded the Secure Offense Act that Duncan Hunter had passed by Congress, if we had funded it, if we had enforced it, Donald Trump probably wouldn't even be a candidate for president today. The Republican and Democrat establishments both created Donald Trump by not securing the border when it was the law of the land.
And I agree with that. Something else we talk about, the broken immigration policy. We don't have a broken immigration policy. We have people that don't enforce the laws. I mean, I know people that emigrated to this country, became citizens, naturalized, as do you, Van, and they went through the procedures. They filled out the paperwork, they paid the money, they had a background check, they had a health screening, all of those things. It takes a lot of time. Sometimes it takes years. They don't do that anymore. It's a broken system. It's a broken system if you don't close the gate.
That's exactly right. One of the people on my panel, Ayan Hirsi Ali, who fled radical Islam and persecution in Somalia, and came to the United States. She's got a book out, Infidel, that talks about how women are oppressed under Islam. She came through the right way. She was on our panel yesterday.
Yeah, she's been on this program several times, and her story is a wonderful story.
Great story.
Yeah, because, again, it's not a broken immigration system. It's a failure to follow the laws. It's a failure. I mean, when you have sanctuary cities and so forth, which, make no mistake, are a national security concern and a problem. When you have mayors being allowed to say, well, we're not going to enforce the laws because, this guy or that woman or whatever, we're just going to ignore the law. You can't pick and choose the laws. Either America is a land of, a nation of laws, or it's not. And right now I'd say it's more lawless than anything.
Yep. And I think that's why Donald Trump has resonated. People get it. They're fed up. They've had it. And And that's one of the key components to fighting terrorism. They know how to get here. In my book, we talk about imams who are caught in backs of trunks of BMWs who call for fatwas and assassinations.
Oh, sure.
In Europe, they're being caught trying to come across our Mexican border. They know how to get here.
Well, and let me ask you something else. Why is it then at CPAC there you see all sorts of people that are very anti-Donald Trump? And I saw Jesse Waters, of all people, on Waters World last night on Fox, go from person to person. One person loves Trump, the next person hates him. There is no middle ground on Donald Trump at CPAC.
You know what, though? I sensed yesterday, after Romney's remarks yesterday, I had a number of people come up to me, and many of them were either neutral on Donald Trump or not for Donald Trump, and they said that they were fed up that the establishment would try to steal this thing from this guy. And even Lindsey Graham today came out and said, I'm not for Donald Trump, but the establishment should not steal this thing from him. If he's got 2/3 and the vast majority of the delegates heading into the convention, he should be the nominee. This is from Lindsey Graham. So I think you've got, even with establishment types, there's enough of them out there who have a sense of fairness. And the Mitt Romney stuff, I'm telling you.
What? It's a joke.
Let me tell you. I mean, there's somebody I sure as hell don't want in my foxhole when a firefight begins.
No kidding. Yeah, turn on you. You know, it's an interesting thing. If they turn on Trump at this point, they'll have a revolution like they've never seen. The Republican Party will get about 10% of the vote. I'll give you 10 seconds for the last word here, Van.
Well, I think it's going to be fun tomorrow. Trump actually speaks tomorrow at 8:30, and there was a guy, I got to tell you this, with an American Revolutionary War uniform running around CPAC yesterday announcing that Donald Trump would be there at 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah. I saw that guy on TV, too. You have fun there, Van. And,
absolutely.
Make sure you get enough rest in between. All right, Van Hipp, everyone. We'll talk soon. Thank you, sir. It's Free for All Friday. We'll wrap things up after this.